Hello everyone and welcome back to another Starcraft2 botting series game as we continue this Gauntlet tournament up the ladder from number 67 all the way up to the top 8, which will transition well into the ProBot Showcase coming up at the end of January, which will be a Gauntlet tournament between the top 8 bots, a little one-day fiesta. Yeah, so where did we leave off? We left off with RookieBot victorious versus NickBot Learns. So NickBot Learns is able to take out Kai, SunZuBot, and RookieBot before falling to Generic Bot. And now we have a new leader, new King of the Hill, Generic Bot, who will be taking on Noob Gam 2. So Noob Gam 2 by Noob Gam is a C++ bot. Interesting. We don't have many of these. But when you do, they're good, because our number one bot on the ladder, and when I say number one, I mean devastatingly better than everyone else, is Micro Machine at a 92% win rate, which is especially low for him right now. Typically, he's around 94, 95%, and he is made in C++. But for now, yes, we will be facing Python versus C++. And after that, our very first, and I believe only Node.js bots, so those will be interesting. Yeah, so let's jump right into it. Generic bot versus Noob Gam. Should be Noob Gam 3, and then the 3 can act as an E, so that can be Noob Game. Yeah. All right, this one will take place on Everdream. Again, the newest ladder maps are not available for us in the botting scene. Scarlet is working on trying to come up with a fix for that, as we need to edit the new ladder maps without using the map editor to make it work. So I don't know what's involved in that process, but if she figures it out, then that will be awesome. It looks like she's making a lot of progress, so I'm cautiously optimistic we'll get the new ladder maps, and possibly even the newest patch as well, balance patch. Because Blizzard has forgotten about us. Our names do not start with Google or DeepMind or AlphaStar, so they're like, we don't care anymore. Smell indie company. RIP. Alright, let's not go 2x speed. I made that mistake last stream. Let's keep it on 1x. And okay, in the bottom left, we do have the new opponent. It is the red Protoss. It is Noob Gam, going with a pylon into gateway into a probe scout. So nice little start there. Meanwhile, we have Generic Bot opening a double supply depot into an expansion. I can't imagine that this is a safe opener. However, with an expansion on the other side of the field by Noob Gam, I can see this being perfectly safe. And in fact, oh no, okay. He's just looking for scouts. I was wondering if he saw the CC first and was like, okay, let me just go straight to my third nexus. It was as some sort of a response to his probe scout. My bot doesn't actually scout, and I don't know what other bots actually scout for. There is a bot called Mad AI, who we'll be seeing in this tournament at some points, who uses machine learning to decide what build to use based on what his probe scouts. But for scripted bots, I wonder what they're actually looking for. Probably a decision based on whether they see an expansion or not. No expansion, they'd probably get all defensive, worried about cheese. I don't know, scouting that early, there's not much else you can tell. Maybe gas timing. If you see no gas, then you know you don't have to worry about like Banshees flying into your base early or something like that. Trying to recall what we saw of Generic Bot last game. We are low enough on the ladder that I would expect all these bots perform exactly the same every game. Maybe a little bit different for each matchup, but and this is a different matchup, so I take it all back. But we could be seeing the same thing out of Generic Bot each game. He went for a whole bunch of unupgraded Marines. He expanded ridiculously quickly because he doesn't really get a lot of production. And then eventually he adds on medevacs. And where it's nice to have Marine upgrades, you know, probably the best buff you can give to Marines is Medivacs. If you had to choose Stim or Combat Shield or +1 or Medivacs, I would choose Medivacs. So he misses out on all the important Marine upgrades, but gets the most important one. So third base going down. One common thing I noticed with these gasless bots is the lack of an orbital. It is a little more complex to code that. It's like this is a unit producing structure, and now you want to use it to produce an upgrade. So whatever generic function you have for a production structure, you might have to change up a little bit. But if you're just going to go depots, barracks, and command centers, it's nice to add the orbital in just for maybe not for a proof of concept, but if you actually want to get some wins on the ladder. With that said, that's not one of these bots. This bot will add on gas, as we know it does make medevacs. But let's check out the new one here, or the noob one here, I should say. He has expanded. The worker count's looking nice, 16 of 16 on both bases, up to 4 gateways. No warp gates, so he'll just be producing these manually. And not a lot of tech. So he's got 500 gas. And it's hard to see what that is intended for. I mean, obviously you can spend it on stalkers. But, yeah, and that is his main gateway focus. So that might spend through this gas eventually, but I don't think so. So it'd be nice to see a robotics, maybe Forge for upgrades, maybe Stargate, some sort of higher tech thing. Perhaps when he takes his third, he'll saturate the minerals first, and then that'll fix this balance a little bit where he has no minerals and a huge gas bank. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, seeing what we see out of generic bots, and that is a whole ton of command centers. Still producing Marines 5 at a time, which doesn't make for a large army, but it's not a small army either. It's something. And he's slowly teching towards Stargates. I assume this factory will go unused again. But this time he could be in trouble. He's not getting away with it like he did versus Nickbot Learns. These stalkers are coming across the map, and they're in a decent number. Only 4 gateways, but that's enough to produce quite a few stalkers. And he's making the decision to fight. He is getting a nice little high ground position here. It's hard for the stalkers to look up, but... Oh, workers joining the fight too. That's nice. Very hard to code workers and Marines to fight together. In fact, it was probably just luck it happened. But it's good to see when it does, when your SCV defense does coincide with your Marine defense at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. It really allows you to win fights you handily that you would win only slightly. Or allow you to barely win fights that you normally would have overrun you and won the game. So yeah, beautiful defense. It would have been nice to see a little bit better kiting of the Stalkers. Stalkers are faster than Marines. Stalkers have longer range than Marines. And Stalkers have shields. So you can kind of like pick away at the Marines from distance, and when you run out of shields, just kind of like leave. And he might have been able to get in there, lose 0 Stalkers, and maybe kill off 10, 15 Marines in the process. More gateways coming down now. He's taking his third. 4th base is on the way, so the macro is nice and solid out of Noob game here. Still having issues with that gas bank. He needs to stop taking gas geysers, so, or find something to spend that gas on. But I mean, it's still 3 bases worth of mineral income, and that mineral income is getting translated purely into stalkers. So actually decent kiting here. He's just kind of gotten trapped, so unfortunately, both attacks. If the Marines are out in front of him, then he'd be kiting backwards. But the Marines came out from behind, so he's like kiting himself back into a corner. Like that one got stuck in a corner. These ones are going to get stuck in a corner. You can see how, like, if the Marines are all here and he was attacking from here, he'd be like moving backwards nice and safely back towards his own base. And the kiting would have worked nice and quite a bit better. Economies are still fairly even. Worker counts are both around 83. Normally you say that's a big advantage for the Terran, but the Terran does not have orbitals, so it's actually completely even. Units lost tab, I assume, is, yeah, well in the Terran's favor. Nice, about 2 to 1. And the resources are spent about the same. Both are having banking issues. Generic bot floating a ton of minerals because he never goes beyond 5 barracks. And the Protoss having that gas issue. Nothing to see past these terrain blockers is becoming a massive problem for these stalkers. They have to keep moving into the terrain blocker to see, and they're to allow them to move into their death. Meanwhile, the Marines were granted vision by the medevacs to see through. So just 3 very unfortunate fights out of Noob game here. I think if they replayed this game, it might have been a different result, but I think this might be a very nice stop. This is what we might have seen. This is the type of engagement we were expecting out of these stalkers. Still kind of getting caught, but you can see the way that they're kiting backwards, creating like this huge concave. If they did that before the medevacs are out, I could see this working out well. Some of them are still kind of walking forward. I think they see like this weak medevac and they want to prioritize it, perhaps. Yeah, but this is what we were looking for earlier. Seems like it's going to be too late now. We'll clean up this little batch of Marines, but that's just one batch. There's more here. SCV's even being pulled, interestingly enough. Don't know what that's about. Maybe some of you caught it in the messages here. But, yeah, I mean, they're helping. Marines attacking on all fronts, which is actually probably good for the Protoss. It means he gets to pick apart them one piece at a time, whereas army supply was way behind the Terrans. If he gets to fight them 5 Marines and 1 medevac at a time, then he can deal with it. 1 medevac goes down. It looks like a second will drop. And a third, and he might actually hold here. So remember, these are 0-0 Marines without combat shield and without stim. And this massive economic lead we have for generic bot, if you look at the minimap, you can see how the economic lead is there, is not transformed into army because he doesn't go beyond 5 barracks, right? I mean, keeping 5 barracks continually active is okay, but just look at that bank, man. He could support. He could max out instantly if he just had 12 more barracks or reactors on these barracks. So this game is far from over. SCV is the only one working on the probes there. But meanwhile, these stalkers are getting quite deep into this base. Medevac with nothing to heal. And all of a sudden, this is looking very bad for generic bot. Now here we have SCVs attacking without Marines, which is usually what happens with bots, and usually just means you're just turning off your own income for no apparent reason. Going to be losing his natural. Luckily, he does have at least 1 more command center on the map, possibly 20 more command centers. Marines are coming home to defend a little bit. Does have a nice little high ground here. He's got a medevac, so maybe he'll pick off a stalker or 2, because the stalkers are having issues with the vision. But did get none of them, actually. Just the way they kite it backwards just naturally cycled the fresh stalkers into the front. And the 2 redline stalkers that were, I thought might fall, made it through. And now the reinforcements have arrived. I mean, there's still some Marines out on the map. He's sending his target location to, when it's 2 high numbers, that means the top right. So it looks like he's wanting to attack back his main base, so he's trying to pull back these Marines. But then every once in a while he gives another attack position, saying, hey, there's stalkers here, attack that instead. So these Marines have been very indecisive, the ones that are on the map. Maybe if they just went through and gunned down all the probes, it would have worked. Maybe if they immediately returned home to fight with the reinforcement, it could have worked. But yeah, what generic bot needs is, rather than build 5 barracks, maybe build 2 barracks for every command center you have. Like 2.5 barracks for every command center you have. Maybe something like that. And then he'll, like, as he expands, he'll naturally add more and more barracks and be able to keep this problem of the 4,500 minerals from turning into this result of being overrun by stalkers in a match you were well ahead in. Those first 2 fights were just beautiful, and even the third fight was looking pretty good until he got split up with the medevacs involved. Now obviously upgrades for the Marines would be helpful as well, but at that point we're talking about just creating a much more complex bot. I think adding more barracks could be just a one-liner of code. I'm pretty sure he has stop at 5 written somewhere in his bots. And instead you just say stop at num command centers times 2. Alright, we'll speed this up to 8x as we see the final mop-up of Noob game. Will he be able to crash? That is the last hope of Generic Bot. But Generic Bot had a nice showing here, taking a nice victory off of the 3-time winner Nick Bot Learns, showing us some nice mass expanding features, and why Marines with medevacs are better than just Marines. Rebuilding random structures. You must think that this location's still taken. Still got 3 Marines here. Might eventually get this Nexus, but probably not before he loses the game. He does have these command centers up, which means he's not revealed. It could take a while. Alright, he doesn't get the Nexus. Let's see how the Search and Destroy works for Noob game here. Yeah, there he goes. Looks like he's just going from one base to the next. Which is a smart way to find the command structure. Usually command structure, it is located at a base. So just cycle through all the available base locations. And let's go back to the list here. So Noob game has defeated Generic Bot and will move on to face Lucid PJS, which doesn't mean he wears pajamas. That means he's a Protoss bot and is written in JavaScript or Node.js. So I think we will, let's see where I'm at for this video. 18 minutes. Let's just put it in this video because there's so many games. May as well start doing as many double game videos as we can. AKA Lucid Pajamas. AKA Lucid. Okay, so people are on top of me. People got to that joke before me. So this is his second bot. His first bot was the Zerg version, which he saw was one ahead on the ladder. A build order based bot only holds a macro Stalker Colossus composition at the moment. Okay, so he's going for Stalker Colossus. That's pretty strong. It kind of deals with air and ground, so not a bad composition to have for a generic, for a simple composition. Future plans: Sucker Harass, Warp Prism, Warpins. He's got his little to-do list here. Okay, so let's hop into it and see what it looks like. So it's going to be a PvP. Mass Stalker bot with a mass gas bank float versus a Stalker Colossus bot, which sounds much better at spending a typical base worth of minerals and gas. Like if you fully saturate a base and you make Stalker Colossus, you'll probably be lacking a little bit of gas, which also means it frees up some minerals to expand with. So that could work out perfectly. The resourcing aspect. All right, there we go. All right, in the left-hand side of Golden Wall, we have the returning one-game champion. It is Noob Game. And the new challenger on the right-hand side will be another Protoss bot. It is Lucid PJS, our first and only JavaScript bot besides the other Lucid bot. All right, throwing down a pylon first and an immediate probe scout. Very interesting. I wonder what TVC is up to, shenanigans, or if he's up to... I don't know. Seems like an early time to scout, though. Although, if you leave it on the scout until it dies, then you can possibly get a lot of information. But it's going to get distracted by another scout and then lose the distraction once you lose the sight of it in the terrain blocker. Or the vision blocker, I should say. Taking a pylon on the low ground, that probably means the assumption he's going to be taking an expansion somewhat soon. Gateway into second gateway. 4 probes to shoo away this single probe. And it doesn't look like they have any restriction on how far they'll chase, so basically Noob game is up 3 probes right now. Awesome. 4 if you include a scout here. Let's see if he actually did get into the base. He did, so he saw the cyber core, did not see the second gateway, but a lot of information. And now all of a sudden this become like a 5-worker harass. What started as a worker defense is now a random worker harass. Stalker is out, but is ignoring the probes. Let's make a bet right now. Will this probe knock these gateways out of the ability to produce? They even chased after the stalker and were ignored. But it looks like that pylon is safe at least. A little bit of hull damage. That's something. I suspect the worker count is probably in the favor of Noob game because of those 5 being pulled by Lucid, yes. And Lucid has not expanded. So 2 gateways, warp gate on the way. A lot of resources in the bank, 600, 600. Unsure what's that for. Maybe it's because he's not saturated as main base yet. Once he gets 16 of 16, maybe that's the benchmark of when he should expand. However, he's not building probes to expand with. I feel like we might have run into a bug. I don't think this is intended by Lucid. He probably should not be making 2,500 resources. He probably didn't do this low ground pylon to never expand. Okay, there's the expansion finally. And the robo. But too little too late, as it looks like 9 stalkers against 3, 7 against 2, something along those lines. Unfortunate for Lucid. I think he got caught in a little bit of a bug there. Pro production has restarted as well. Yeah, everything was stalled. And then when he saw the enemy army, it kicked him out of that stall that he was a part of. Pulling the probes, yeah, too little too late, and they decide it's better to flee. Neither of which are, you know, pick your poison, basically. Neither are faring very well for him. And with that, we have a quick victory at a new game. Despite expanding twice, the initial probe push, or the initial stalker push was more than Lucid could handle. But where there is Lucid 1, there is Lucid 2. We will be seeing the slightly higher ELO bot of his original Lucid Z.js. That's right, I'm Canadian. I say Z. And yeah, stay tuned for that in the next video. Can generic bot, nope, sorry, not generic bot, he's already gone. Can Noob Game be both Lucids, or will Lucid Z, the original Lucid, take the crown and continue on up the ladder? I'm talking as if you can see this. Yeah, okay, there we go. So Noob Game versus Lucid Z.js next. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Goodbye.